Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the People on the Go Lunch and Learn webinar. My name is Melissa Sweat, Online Community Manager at People on the Go, and I'll be moderating our webinar today. Before we start, let's just do a quick check, as we like to do, to make sure that you can hear me just fine and see the screen. I'm going to toggle back between these first two slides here so you can see that there. Please go ahead and locate the questions panel and let me know if you can hear my voice. Awesome. Thank you, Suzanne. I'll wait for a few more confirmations there. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. By the way, if you are needing assistance, the number to call is right there on the screen, 1-800-263-6317. By the way, if you miss anything, we will be sending you a copy of the recording afterwards. Today's session is an exciting one. It's the perfect 15-minute day method, from scattered to accomplished and happy. And I have with us our founder, Pierre Khawand. Just a quick background about why we have these sessions, especially for those who are with us for the first time at People on the Go. We have these sessions here because our focus is productivity and leadership in the workplace. And these are some of the many topics that we cover. I invite you to become an active member of our online community. You can check out our Less is More blog for resources. You can also become engaged in our Accomplishing More with Less groups on Facebook and LinkedIn. And you can also find our newer pages, the Perfect 15-Minute Day on Facebook, as well as our new company page on LinkedIn. And of course, you can follow our founder, Pierre, on Twitter. I'm excited to announce that we have a special prize for you today. We are giving everyone complimentary access to the Perfect 15-Minute Day e-course, and I will have more details for that for you at the end of the session. Awesome, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our founder, Pierre Khawand. Pierre Quand comes from the software industry, where he led several technology ventures and completed successful mergers and acquisitions before funding People on the Go in 2001. His focus has been on productivity and leadership, helping today's business professionals develop the awareness and behaviors needed to succeed in today's work environment. He is the author of several related books, including the Accomplishing More with Less workbook, Time for Leadership, and more recently, the Perfect 15-Minute Day, which brings us to today's topic. And with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. So welcome, Pierre.
Thank you, Melissa. This is very exciting. I'm looking forward to sharing this method and the related tips and techniques with everyone.
Thank you, and we're excited to hear about it. So the first question I have for you here is, so a new book about managing the overload. What keeps you interested in this topic?
Yeah, so what keeps me interested, couple of things. One is that this topic is so relevant today. We live in the overload and we just seem like we can't escape it. So the topic is very relevant, but also because I find it very rewarding to see people make real changes in their lives as a result of the different methods that we have.
Great. And then the new book, the Perfect 15-Minute Day, it advocates the use of a journal, a timer, and a method. Can you give us an overview of what the method looks like?
Yeah, that's right. So a journal, a timer, and the Perfect 15-Minute Day method. By the way, we abbreviate the Perfect 15-Minute Day method as PDM. So you're going to hear me say PDM quite a few times today. So at the surface, PDM is very simple. However, it has some deep meaning and it relies on the latest research in neuroscience, stress management, productivity, and the like. So I'm going to walk you through what the Pdm fundamentals look like, and then we'll get to talk about some of the details. So if you can, Melissa, hand me the screen so I can just do that here.
Okay, sure.
Okay. So can you see my screen now?
Yes, looks great.
Okay, perfect. So let me put it in presentation mode and give you some of the fundamentals here. Okay, so first of all, PDM asks us or um, prompts us to start the day differently instead of just starting with whatever comes to our mind, or typically email is the first thing we do. It's stepping back, asking the question, what is important? What do I want to accomplish today? And then jotting that down on a new page in the journal, which we call the today's page. And this would have in it the 3 to 5 important things I would feel fulfilled and accomplished if I complete today. So this is not a full list of everything I want to do today. This is 3 to 5 important things that I would feel accomplished if I complete today. And then starting the capture page. The capture page, we'll talk about it a little later, but it's a placeholder for things that come up that I don't have time to deal with, but I want to park in a safe place for later in the day. So that's the capture page. And then starting the now page. So the now page, which is the foundation for the perfect 15-minute day method, is where as soon as I start to work on a task, I would write down the now tag and then the name of the task and then 15, which means I also start my timer for 15 minutes. And what this means is that I am right now working on this task and I have an intention to work on it for 15 minutes. So these are the two fundamentals behind the method. That one is knowing exactly what we're working on. And then second is working in short bursts of highly productive 15 minutes. Now, what happens is if I'm done with this task within the 15-minute time frame, which can happen, and when that happens, let me make sure we're blue here. When that happens, I will cross off, I will check off this task and then start a new now tag and whatever the next task is going to be and start my timer again for another 15 minutes. Now, what happens if I'm not done with my task after the 15 minutes? In that case, I could extend and work on the task another 15 minutes. So I jot down another 15, restart my timer, and then give it another 15 minutes. At the end of the next 15 minutes, if I'm done, I can check it off and move on to a new task. If I'm not done, maybe I'm not done, but I would like to switch tasks anyway because something more important came up, or I decided to put this on the side for now. In this case, I would use a symbol which we call the switch symbol. It's this arrow right here pointing forward. So that means I switched off this task, but I'm not done yet. That's an indication that at some point I need to come back to it. And then I put a new now tag and the name of the new task and a new 15-minute period. So again, the two fundamental principles. I know what I'm working on at all times, and I work in that 15-minute increment. Let's say after this 15 minutes, I'm done with reviewing training, so I'm done with this task, and I'm ready to take a little break. So at this point in time, I check off the task. I use a new tag, which we call the off tag. The off tag means I'm no longer working on a task. This could be a break, it could be a meeting, it could be a brainstorming session. So it's something where I don't necessarily work on a specific task and I'm not timing myself. Or it could be I just want to be creative and strategic and just, not want to have that time thing going on. So the off tag is the other mode of working. So these are the fundamentals of the now method. Now there are a lot more details, and I think in our conversation, Melissa, we're going to cover some of these details, but these are the foundational pieces.
Wonderful, really fascinating. So you mentioned the paper journal. Why paper?
Yeah, I get this question a lot actually. Paper is the least distracting user interface. So a blank page with nothing on it, nothing to click on, nothing that pops up. How cool that is. Now, having said this, you can implement the techniques electronically if you wish. So you can use an electronic document or a journal app on your mobile device if you want. So that would work equally well, but there is an advantage for paper, just like I mentioned. It's just a great way to allow us to step back, think more strategically, instead of being always bombarded by information and interrupting things.
Okay, great. That makes sense. And for us mobile users, which is probably all of us, can you compare mobile versus paper?
Yeah, so mobile versus paper. Aside from the distraction factor that I just mentioned, what we found out working with a lot of the users who tested the method before we released it is that mobile is ideal for connecting with the world, but not necessarily as ideal for connecting us with our own thoughts and our own feelings and intentions and with the physical reality around us. So paper can serve these connections much better. I like to think about it as being paper being the me platform, while mobile is the us platform. And we need enough of that me platform and me space to be effective in the us world. So essentially, we need both, and they go hand in hand.
Okay. Now, back to the idea of the timer. Why 15 minutes?
Our attention has become very challenged. I think everyone on the call would agree to that. Social media and mobile apps and you name it. Think about Twitter and the 140 characters and Snapchat and 10 seconds. So, and considering the speed of change, which is another big part of this. So, with all these forces around us, anything longer than 15 minutes would seem too long, and it's probably not even achievable, and it's very hard sell to today's workforce. So 15 minutes is much more achievable and can accomplish the desired results. I would like to emphasize, though, something here, which is another question that comes up often. The 15-minute time frame is not a deadline. It's more of an intention and more of a checkpoint. It's like saying, I intend to focus on this task for 15 minutes. And at the end of the 15 minutes, I'll check and see if I'm on the right track. I can continue another 15 minutes and another 15 maybe. If I feel like I need to adjust, then I'll make an adjustment. So it's really about awareness of time, which is something that's very rare, knowing all the ways in which we get distracted. And most PDM users, by the way, they found out that 15 minutes is just right, and they continue to use that 15-minute time frame. Occasionally, some users said, well, the nature of my work requires or allows me to work in longer increments, and they decided to use 20 or 30 minutes. And that's something we encourage everyone to do, which is after you get the fundamentals and have some experience with the method, to tailor it based on your needs and what you see work for you.
Okay, great. Now, one of the core components of PDM is managing thoughts. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, that is a core component. You're very right, Melissa, and that's in the name, in the title of the book, Managing Thoughts and Managing Emotions, which we'll get to a little later. So the first category of thoughts is thoughts about things to do. It's a big category. Basically, you start to work on something, and then a barrage of thoughts show up about all the other outstanding things that you have. So I'd like to, before I talk specifically about managing thoughts and specifically about thoughts, about things to do, I'd like first to introduce a technique, which is also one of the core techniques in PDM, which we call micro planning. So I'm going to talk about micro planning and then bring us back to talk about thoughts and how we capture thoughts about things to do. So micro planning is basically a technique in which as soon as I start on a task, if this task involves multiple steps or is complicated, I would break it down into smaller steps, which we call the micro plan. Why do we call it micro plan as opposed to a plan? Because it's mostly planning what am I going to do in the next 15 minutes. So it's very granular. So this plan helps me stay on track. So as I finish certain steps, I will check them off, which is a good feeling, also feeling like I've accomplished something. And that is a small positive feeling that our nervous system will pay attention to, and it will give us a little more motivation, a little more positive energy. So that by itself is a good thing. So now I do finish those two steps and I'm working on this one, but then a thought, now we're getting into the thought topic, a thought comes to my mind about another step that I need to do related to this proposal. So what I do with this thought is I will add it to the micro plan where it belongs, and then go back and stay fully focused on my current step. So now we're talking about sharp focus. I'm not only focused on the task, I'm focused on that step. I'm going to get that step done so well and feel so much better about it. So this is the first thought, if the thought happens to be related to this task. But how about if the thought is not related to this task, it's about something else that's a little time sensitive and that I need to do very soon. Typically what we do with these thoughts is we jump into doing this other task and forget about our current task. And this happens several times, and in a few minutes we don't even know what we're working on. So, but with PDM, when you have such a thought about something relatively urgent that you'd like to do, you don't just quickly get into it, you add it to a next column. So the technique here is to have that next column awaiting such thoughts and add that to-do item, and this will be the to-do item you will consider as soon as you're done with your 15 minutes. And for most of us, anything can wait for 15 minutes. There are very few jobs where this may not be the case, but for most of our work, most of the time, 15 minutes is something we can wait for. Now, what if this thought about something to do is something that I don't even know what to do with right now? So it would require some thinking, but I don't want to lose it, and I don't want to start to get preoccupied with it. So what do I do with it? That's what the capture page is for. I capture it for later consideration. And this later consideration is a process, according to PDM, which we call the end of day reconciliation. And that's something we talk about in detail. What do you do and how do you handle these items? Now, what if this thought about this thing to do is something that I know I need to do sometime today? So in that case, I will simply add it to the today's page in the journal. So what's happening, the journal is becoming the extension of our short-term memory. Instead of these thoughts competing to those 7 items that we can hold in our short-term memory, that's not a lot of space. So instead of them competing and us trying to hold on to them and therefore be scattered and overwhelmed and stressed, we have very specific places for them. We manage these thoughts, and then we can manage our focus as a result.
Okay, wonderful. What about thoughts, though, that aren't related to the tasks at hand and what we're working on?
This brings us to a whole other category of thoughts. It's one category is the self-talk that happens in our mind that includes interpretations, assumptions, judgments, you name it. These can get in the way of focus, and they can also create anxiety. And the same thing goes for certain emotions. So PDM provides techniques for writing down thoughts and emotions, and also for ranking them as a way to disarm them and be able to move beyond them. So I will show you a couple of tags in a few minutes or in a minute. But let me first mention a study in which researchers put people into a scanner. The scanner revealed which part of their brains were active as they looked at photographs. When the photographs were angry or fearful types of photographs, the reactive part of their brain would light up. So this would be the middle part, the amygdala. And what happens is the researchers, after this first experiment, they took these people and they worked with them for several weeks, training them to recognize and label their feelings. So when they noticed anger or fear, they would label it. This is anger. This is fear. When the researchers tested them again with the same photographs, they found that a different part of the brain was lighting up, the part associated with thinking and wisdom, and that is the prefrontal cortex. So I hope that this research study shows a lot. Basically, that's exactly what PDM trains us to do. By labeling thoughts and feelings and ranking them, we're training ourselves to respond differently, activating different parts of our brain. So instead of being agitated and reacting to things, we can become calmer, more practical, and obviously that means less stressed and less overwhelmed. Now, to give you a couple examples, I want to show you. So this is the thought tag. So we have a tag called thought. As simple as that. It's a thought. And in that tag, let's say you notice when you start to work on this proposal, you notice that in your mind, you're telling yourself that you're not good at this. So that's a thought that you noticed. So you write it down. And remember, what does labeling? You gave it a label. What does labeling do? In a way, it engages a different part of your brain. And then give it a rank. You're engaging that different part of the brain even further by starting to measure and assess. And that alone can take away that edge from that thought and get you back thinking and being calmer. But there is another step we take, which is what you might do with that thought. I won't get into that right now. It's a bigger topic, but that's something we talk about in the book in detail. So there's some things you may do with that thought. And sometimes all you might do is just remind yourself that it's okay to have this thought. So accepting it, which is in a way, it's a freeing experience to just say, okay, I've got this thought. It's okay. And now I can go back to my proposal. And the same happens with emotions. Sometimes it's not a thought. Sometimes it's just this feeling of anxiety, feeling of fear, whatever the feeling is. So it's noting it again, ranking it. By the way, the ranking is 0 to 10, 10 being 0 being very horrible and almost making you dysfunctional, and 10 being happy, extremely positive, etc. So when you rank something, it immediately brings some calmness to it, because most of the things that we encounter are not that bad. I think in our mind, before we rank them, they may feel that bad, but once we think about them for a few seconds, we realize that in the scale of things, in the bigger perspective, they're probably somewhere, in the middle. So anyway, and then what do we do with them? So that's how we can also manage thoughts and emotions instead of having them manage us.
Okay, wow. So PDM really covers all levels. It seems to make us more aware, not only of what we're working on and the time we are spending on it, but what's going on for us mentally and emotionally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And actually, Melissa, we have a whole chapter in the book about mindfulness at work and how PDM can help us accomplish that, which explains why many of our PDM users reported feeling calmer and less stressed as a result. So
Awesome.
highly recommended chapter for those who are also interested in the mindfulness topic as a whole.
Definitely, definitely. Now, are there any other aspects of our busy lives that PDM addresses? I know we don't have too much time left, and we might go over just a little bit in the
Yeah,
Q&A, but any
sure.
other overview of the benefits?
Yeah, yeah. Let me. Hopefully, we gave our participants today with really good view of the fundamentals and how it works. It's basically PDM is basically a language. It's a
Mm.
language that can help us navigate our internal world in a way that helps us be much more effective and give space to all kinds of things, to thoughts and emotions and items and all these to do things. So give them space instead of having to hold on to them in our very small short-term memory. So the other aspects that the PDM handles are things like managing email, which is a huge issue for everyone in the workplace. So there's a whole process for managing email and also treating it like a task. The second one is managing people interruptions. So we all have lots of interruptions in our day. How do we manage interruptions? So PDM can help with that. And also allowing us to become much better at managing competing priorities. They all come at the same time. Basically, we like to say it, PDM can turn you into a multitasking guru when multitasking is inevitable. So typically we like to promote focus, but there are many times where we just can't focus because of today's demands, and therefore we need to be good at multitasking. So that's also what PDM will provide. So with this, knowing we're getting close to time, and hopefully we'll still get a couple questions from the audience, I'm going to turn it back to you, Melissa, so you can tell everyone about how to get to the e-course, the complimentary e-course we're offering to everyone. But I want to also mention that if there was something I just want to leave you with, it would be whatever way you accomplish this, it doesn't have to be PDM, but seek to be more mindful of what you're doing at every moment and why, and how much time you're giving it and why. And also in doing so, I would say it will be highly beneficial to stop and acknowledge the small accomplishments. I like to call them the micro accomplishments, but also the micro effort, because sometimes accomplishments may not show up until much later. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to you so we can hopefully within a minute, and we'll take questions. You can feel free to email me questions or email Melissa, and we'll be happy to answer questions via email. But hopefully this e-course will give you what you need to really get started. That's why we're making it available complimentary today, because we want you to get better at managing time, managing thoughts and emotions in a way that's easy, that's highly beneficial.
Well, thank you so much, Pierre, and thank you all again for attending and for sticking around as we close out our session and get you information on the e-course. So just a few reminders. Yes, as we mentioned, everyone today gets complimentary access to the e-course, and I'm going to now send you the link to the course. It's on a website called Ruzuku, if you're not familiar with it, and that's coming to you now in the chat panel. And what you'll need to do is before our webinar closes today, I invite you to go ahead and sign up there. That will be expiring very soon. So please go ahead and sign up and you'll have full access to the course. In addition, we have an extra prize, an extra special prize for those who stayed on today. We'll be giving away a journal, the Perfect 15-Minute Day Journal. And this will really get you going into implementing PDM into your day and to really integrating these new techniques into habits. It takes you step by step through 21 days of adopting the method. So that's a big one there. And what you'll need to do to win that, please just fill out the feedback form that's going to pop up on your screen when we exit the webinar today. So please fill that out fully, and then we'll select a winner from that list. I'd like to invite you as well to, of course, check out the book. It's a book and ebook on Amazon, the journal, of course, and now everyone's getting the e-course. And you can find some handy links to these on our website. I'd also like to mention the Perfect 15-Minute Day workshop available for you or your organization or team, 2 to 3 hour session. And this is all that you get there. And that also includes, we have a workshop in person and also webinars. So please do contact myself or Pierre if you're interested in setting up a session. And lastly, I'd just like to remind you of our resources that are available to you here. Some upcoming webinars in our schedule. We have advanced Microsoft pivot tables coming up next week, accomplishing more with less for managers, a 3-part series coming up the following week. And then in mid-August, here's where you can delve into really managing your email and learning our methodology there for managing email as a task. All right, so now we have just a bit of time here for some questions. Go ahead and locate that questions panel if you haven't asked your question just yet. Okay, great. Someone's asking about the acronym PDN. I think you maybe mean PDM, and that stands for the Perfect Day Method. If you need any clarification, just let us know. Here's another question here from Leilani. How do you use this method with the note page from the Accomplishing More with Less class? Great question, Leilani.
Yeah, the note page has been replaced by the now page, Lonnie, and the now page continues to be also the place where you would write your notes. So after you do, let's say, your now proposal 15 and you're working on that proposal, the space below that is your notes space to write your notes. So the now page becomes combination of the now and the notes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. We'll go ahead and wait for any other questions to come in. Thank you, John. Thank you for the kudos, everyone. Much appreciated. Oh, great. Elizabeth is asking how to get the journal. Okay, well, in the giveaway today, what we're going to do is once you exit the session, a feedback form for the webinar is going to pop up on your screen. And all you'll need to do is fill out the form, fill it out completely if you don't mind. And then we will go ahead and select a winner from those who completed the feedback form. So that's how you will receive the journal. The e-course, of course, is complimentary to you, and that link is in the chat panel. And once more, you'll need to sign up for that before we exit the session today to get in. So I hope that explains that there for you. Awesome. Let me see here. Looks like we have a couple more questions. I'm going to check the time. I think we have time. We'll take 2 more questions. Let's see. Oh, and then how do you get it without winning? You, of course, can just visit our website, and we have some handy links there for you on our website. It's available through, is the website Lulu, Pierre?
Yeah, lulu.com is where you can find it, and the links are on. If you go to perfect15.com, you'll find the links to the different offerings.
Awesome. And yes, just to clarify, Catherine, the feedback form will pop up on the screen once we exit. Another question here about PDM. How would tasks that typically, oh, this is a great one. How would tasks that typically take 30 minutes or more be incorporated into the method?
15 minutes at a time.
Got it. So likes to say the 15 minutes is an intention. It's not a deadline.
Right. So let's say your task is going to take 30, 40 minutes. You start with the first 15 minutes, and then you can renew another 15, another 15. So yeah, the idea is to have that awareness of time and even if your task is 45 minutes, put some goals for the first 15 minutes and make some progress on those specific goals. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, this is a great one, Layla. Do you ever go back and review the data to see how long stuff actually takes, so your work is actually taking for future planning?
Absolutely. This is something that can be very informative. And that's what some of the benefits that our users reported is now I know how long things take. I'm
Right.
better at estimating. And I'm the other one is I'm no longer just getting carried away, spending so much time on this one thing while letting two or three other important things just wait on the side. So just that awareness of time, better estimating, and that can be helped by taking a look at what you've done.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Pierre, and thank you all again for your questions. Much appreciated to stay after a little bit while we answered questions. We know you have to get back to your busy days. Layla's last question here was about how to sign up for the email class. You can just visit our website there and find our webinars section, and you can sign up there, or feel free to contact us directly. I'll go ahead and send you my email as well. All right, everyone. Well, that brings us to the conclusion. As I mentioned, we're going to be the feedback form will pop up, and please just go ahead and fill that out if you'd like an opportunity to win that journal. Thank you again, Pierre, and thank you all
Thank you,
again for
Melissa.
attending today.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Bye bye.